Let's be honest, we're all a little overwhelmed with AI tools that just promise to summarize our documents, right? You feed them a report, you get back some bullet points. But what if a tool didn't just summarize? What if it could actually create for you? What if it could be your own personal presentation engine? Well, today we're taking a look at Google's NotebookLM, and trust me, it's not what you think it is.
I can just about hear you thinking it now. Oh, great, another AI that summarizes PDFs. And look, I get it. We've all seen those demos. You upload a super dense report and it spits back a handful of highlights. It's fine. It's useful maybe, but it's not exactly a game changer, is it? The promise just often falls a little flat.
So, let's reframe this whole thing. I want you to forget the idea of a passive summarizer. Instead, think of this as an active presentation engine. This is a tool that grabs your raw notes, your research, your documents, and it doesn't just shorten them. It actually transforms them into a polished, compelling presentation that's ready for an audience. Now that is where the real power of NotebookLM is. To really get this, you have to shift your mindset. You're not just a passive user feeding a machine some documents. Nope. You're the director. You are in the driver's seat here, and you are the one shaping the narrative and controlling the final cut. So the workflow itself is actually pretty simple, but it is incredibly powerful. First, you pull together your sources. That's the raw material for your story. Then, and this is the most important step, you write what's called a director's prompt. Now, this isn't just a simple question. Think of it like your creative brief. You define the persona, the tone, the audience. And finally, you just hit generate, and the AI gets to work building a presentation to your exact specifications.
So what does a director's prompt actually look like? Well, there's this fantastic example from the YouTube channel Teachers Tech. A user took this mountain of really complex material, all about quantum computing, and gave the AI this one simple instruction: present this to a grade 6 class. And the results? It was a completely transformed, simplified, and genuinely engaging video. Amazing.
We like to call this the chameleon effect. It's this tool's pretty remarkable ability to adapt its entire communication style on command. So with just one simple prompt, you can take the exact same source material and present it to a class of 6th graders or to a PhD seminar. You, as the director, are in total control of the performance. But here's the thing. This presentation engine, it isn't just a standalone feature. It's actually part of a much larger creative suite, a studio of tools, where each one is designed to help you look at your material from a completely different angle. This studio gives you all these different lenses. You can generate a mind map to see how different ideas connect. You can create a timeline to see how a concept evolved. You can get a custom report for a real deep dive. And you can also create an audio overview, which you need to know is fundamentally different from the video tool. And this distinction is absolutely critical. Think about the video overview like a polished, one-way broadcast. It's a finished product. The audio overview, on the other hand, is a two-way conversation. It's more like an interactive podcast where you can actually interrupt and ask questions. Knowing which one to use for what purpose is totally key to your strategy. All right, so we've seen what this thing can do, but to really use it effectively, we kind of need to understand how it thinks. We've got to look under the hood a little bit at the ghost in the machine, because knowing its limitations is every bit as crucial as knowing its strengths. And that brings us to a really critical question. When you upload a 200-page document, does the AI read it from cover to cover, just like a person would? The answer, and this might surprise you, is no. Not at all. Check this out. A user on Reddit shared a perfect example of this. They uploaded a 146-page document. But when they started asking the AI about it, they found out it could only see a very specific chunk of it, pages 97 through 149. It was completely blind to the beginning and the end of the document. So what in the world is going on here? The answer is in a system called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. So here's how it works. Instead of reading your document from start to finish, the AI basically shatters it into tiny little pieces. When you ask a question, it finds the most relevant pieces for that question and builds its answer using only those pieces. It never, ever sees the full picture all at once. Another Reddit user offered up this absolutely perfect analogy. They said, think of it like your document is cut up into little pieces, and all those pieces are pinned on a giant wall, and the pieces with similar information are all pinned close together. So when you ask a question, the AI just finds the spot on the wall where your question belongs and looks at the pieces pinned right there.
So what's the strategic takeaway from all this? Well, it means this system is brilliant for understanding concepts and finding thematic connections, right? That's what we call semantic search. But it's absolutely the wrong tool for tasks that need a literal, line-by-line reading of the whole document, like counting how many times a specific word appears.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. What is the core strategy you need to know to get the most value out of this incredibly powerful tool?
It really boils down to 3 key insights. First, you have to treat this as a presentation engine, not just a summarizer. Your goal is creation. Second, remember that you are the director. Your prompt is your script, and it controls the entire performance. And third, you've got to know its limits. Understand how it thinks so you can use its power for connecting big ideas, not just for counting words. And all of this leads to a final, and I think crucial, question. When tools like this start to automate content creation, the presentations, the videos, the reports, where does the real human value come from? It's definitely not about who can put slides together the fastest anymore. The single most valuable skill for any strategist becomes the ability to ask the right questions, the ability to be a masterful director,